What to look for when your chainsaw is not making the cut. Troy, if you know me, you know that most of my chainsaw experience in the field is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it looks like that saw is cutting really well.
Well, how do you know that?
Well, because it's sliding effortlessly through the log, throwing good-sized chips out of it. Doesn't sound like the power head's working too hard.
Those are some nice big chips. That's good, right?
Yeah, so he's definitely got his teeth sharp and he's got his rakers adjusted just right.
I am absolutely mesmerized by this footage. Well, I lied. Not all of my experiences are perfect. So I've got situations where the saw is not cutting straight and I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah, so is it starting to cut a bowl out of the side of your firewood?
Yes, it is.
So chances are you hit something. There could have been a nail or some rock, or maybe you were cut out of the bottom of the log and cutting the dirt underneath it.
You sure? I'm pretty good.
Oh boy. If it's cutting to one side, it's likely because you've hit something that has only damaged the teeth on one side of your chain. So you've knocked the edge off of all of your right-hand side cutters.
So there's two cutters?
There is two cutters. You have both a left and a right-hand side cutter on your chain. So a lot of times only one side gets damaged, and so it tends to drift off to that side.
Also, too, it's spitting out like dust. So the chips are gone. It's like straight up sawdust. I don't know if that has anything to do with it as well.
Yeah, so the dust is because your teeth aren't cutting. You've hit something and they're not sharp anymore. They're rounded off.
So you keep throwing these chain terms at me, Troy, and you know I'm a little slow today. So can you break this down, like the anatomy of this chain?
The chain consists of drive links, which are the piece sticking out of the bottom. You've got your tie straps, which connect your drive links together. And then you have your cutter, which is obviously the tooth that's sticking out of the top. And it's all held together with a series of rivets.
What's that rhino horn thing at the top there?
That little piece sticking up in front of the cutter tooth is the raker. That's what determines how aggressive the tooth cuts.
So if the raker was short, you'd get one heck of a bite.
Yeah, and it'll probably stall your saw out and you won't get very far. On this particular chain here, it has another special feature on the tie straps that's known as an anti-kickback device or a safety chain, and it helps eliminate or at least lessen the impact of a kickback if it does occur.
Ah, so it kind of reduces that bite. So the cutting teeth, I mean, do homeowners and professional loggers use the same thing? Are there different types?
Here we have a good example of both a semi-chisel chain and a full chisel chain. A logger primarily uses a full chisel chain because they cut a little bit quicker. They tend to be a little bit more aggressive. A lot of homeowners use the semi-chisel chain. It's a little bit less aggressive, but it can also withstand a lot more abuse. So if you accidentally bump the dirt with your chain, it's not going to go dull as quick. They both use the same round file to sharpen.
I'll be honest, Troy, you're kind of being aggressive today. Is there something you want to talk about?
You got to be quiet, man.
Oop, easy.
So a good, sharp, well-filed chain will have this nice C shape on the front of the tooth, coming to a point.
What's that little line on the top that's angled?
You can sharpen the tooth all the way up to that line before it starts losing integrity.
Gotcha. It's like tread on a tire.
Sort of. You can look at the very front top corner of that tooth. If it looks rounded over at all, chances are you've hit something. So most of the damage that you're going to see is going to be from soil or some other form of fine contaminant. It shows more of an abrasive type damage, so almost like the top of the tooth is being sanded away. If you strike metal, it's going to actually break pieces of the tooth off, and so it looks much more severe.
Yeah, that's ugly looking.
Yeah, and that's probably just from hitting a nail or two while cutting firewood. On this tooth, we're getting really close to that indicator mark on the back of the tooth.
Anything with the rakers or the depth?
The rakers, you never really file all the way down. You'll only file a few times on those. One tip I would have is if you have a couple chains that are nearing the end of their life, you may want to hang on to them, especially if you have to do a bunch of stump cutting or you're cutting roots or something like that. These are great chains for that because if you really mess them up, they're already junk.
Hey, Troy, can I borrow your chainsaw? I'm going to be cutting some thin wood on a concrete driveway. I thought...
Absolutely not.
Well, now I know why my saw is not performing. We'll see you and your high-performing saw in the woods.